Hello, welcome to the Smart Cities and Smart Energies panel of the National Conference of UNPE, the National Association of Research and Development of Innovative Company. My name is Philippe Cassapo, and I'm a director at UNPE and also the president of ENRICH in Brazil. ENRICH in Brazil is a supported initiative of the European Union, which has the main objective of fostering the relationship between Europe and Brazil for science, technology, and innovation. It is our great honor as ENRICH in Brazil to participate to the National Conference of UNPE and to present you today a reflective panel on smart cities and smart energy. We'll have the opportunity in the next hour to listen to one of the most experts in the topics in the world, both in Brazil and in Europe. So we'll have the opportunity of listening to JPI Urban Europe, also to City of ESPOO in Finland, and we'll have the opportunity of listening to the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, as well as the city of Vienna. So really a great bench of experts which will share their expectations and also their experiences in terms of the challenges for the 21st century in terms of smart energies and smart cities. As you know, the 21st century shall be the century of sustainability or shall not be. In that sense, we have to remember that at the beginning of the 20th century, we only had 1 billion human beings on planet Earth. Right now, at the beginning of the 21st century, we are arriving close to 8 billion human beings on Earth. According to United Nations, the prevision is to arrive to 10 billion human beings in 2050. As you already know, most of the people on Earth live in big cities. Presently, more than 50% of the people live in big cities. The prevision is to arrive to more than 60% of the people living in big cities in 2050. Therefore, the cities, sustainability in cities, smart cities, are at the heart of the concerns that we must have in terms of innovation, science, and technology. And this is what we are going to talk about today. We are going to see what are the challenges and also what are the technologies, the innovation, and how we can collaborate between Europe and Brazil in order to design the future that we really desire in terms of economic development, but also in terms of respect for the environment and for the people. Thank you so much for joining us and have a wonderful panel today.
So hello and welcome to this panel. So this panel session is part of one in a series of webinars on urban challenges and organized by the ENRICH in Brazil project platform. The webinar series aims at discussing urban challenges, fields of action to support urban transitions towards a more sustainable and livable urban future, and methods how to get there. In each webinar, we will hear interesting cases from Brazil and Europe and exchange on what can be learned from EU-Brazil cooperation and how we can get things going and facilitate the exchange of knowledge, experience, and innovation. My name is Johannes Riegler. I'm an urbanist and geographer by training, and I work with the management board of the Joint Programming Initiative Europe here in Vienna. Today, the webinar is organized, as I said, by ENRICH in Brazil with support of the Brazilian Institute of Intelligent, Human and Sustainable Cities and the JPI Urban Europe. Today's topic is on smart cities and smart energy. A very broad topic, as you can imagine, but we gonna see that we discuss it in from different perspectives, and then also see what is common between Europe and Brazil in this regard. In Brazil, there are multiple actions areas linked to the implementation plan of UN Habitat's new urban agenda, which address the issue of of energy. While on the European side, today we will focus on positive energy districts as energy efficient and energy flexible urban areas that produce net zero greenhouse gas emissions while generating more renewable energy than they use. So on the European side, the Positive Energy District Program supports the planning and deployment and replication of this positive energy districts, of which 20 countries are currently part of, and we will hear all about that in a second, I believe. So here with me today are 4 speakers from Brazil and Europe, which will give us an insight in the work. That is Christoph Gollner. He's the program manager of the Positive Energy Districts program. We have Stefan Sattler from the city of Vienna. We have Elina Von, I hope I pronounced your name kind of correctly, from the city of Espoo in Finland, of Northern Europe. Elina will also present as the second European case. And we have Lorraine Kumara, I hope I pronounced that correctly, a researcher at the electric sector research group GESEL of the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. Yeah. It is a pleasure for me to be here today and moderate this panel. Each of you will have about 10 minutes time to present. I will signal you with a little post-it when you have 1 minute left. If I don't catch your attention in time, I will briefly let you know verbally that your time is almost over. After the discussion, we will have 10 to 15 minutes, or after the presentation, we have 10 to 15 minutes for the discussion. With that, I would like to give the word to Christoph Gollner to introduce the Positive Energy District program and the thoughts behind that to us.
Thank you very much, Johannes. Hello also from my side. As Johannes introduced me, I'm Christoph Gollner from my education urban planner and working for JPI Urban Europe as the coordinating program manager for the program on positive energy districts for sustainable urban development, full name. I'll be talking about the PED program, PED as short for positive energy districts, as part of Europe's ambitions towards energy transition and climate neutrality. First, maybe something you probably are aware of, but it's always good to get it straight again. Why are cities so much in focus? Urban areas are among the main originators of climate change, as urban activities are major sources of greenhouse gas emissions. They account for roughly 70% of global CO2 emissions and 2/3 of the global energy consumption. Therefore, urban areas are also key actors in achieving and transforming the system and achieving climate targets, decarbonization, and the energy transitions. Cities are the hubs of communication, commerce, and culture, and cities' policies and ambitions set the agenda for a sustainable future. Some challenges, and that's of course not a full-fledged list of challenges we are facing, but it is basically about developing greening strategies for cities, developing strategies for transforming cities into so-called smart cities, transforming the energy system, transforming the mobility system. A very big challenge, especially in European cities, but in a lot of global cities, I guess, is transforming the existing building stock. We cannot achieve our goals with just new developments. A major challenge is how to organize that, how to apply inclusive approaches, how to involve the relevant stakeholders, the public, the citizens, civic society. And one of the more recent challenges is how do we deal with the COVID-19 crisis, and what can strategies towards this transition process contribute to recovery plans in the wake of the COVID-19 crisis. Europe has set itself quite high ambitions. This is a list of initiatives that are already currently going on in Europe. One of the biggest things that has been launched in the last year was the European Green Deal that focuses on a climate neutral Europe by 2050. I included the web addresses for that. And I will not go into detail of each initiative. Currently, there is a first call has been launched over 1 billion euros in the framework of the European Green Deal. There is the urban agenda for the EU. There is a smart cities platform in Europe, a smart cities marketplace, and maybe especially interesting also for cities outside Europe, the European lighthouse cities that focus in the last 2 or 3 calls very much on the development of positive energy districts. There are several projects there. Under Horizon Europe, the next framework program, there will be a mission on cities with the ambition of having 100 climate neutral cities by 2030, with the addition that it should be done by and for the citizens. So the involvement of the public plays a major role in achieving that mission. And I would like to highlight another initiative under Horizon Europe. There will be so-called partnerships, and one of these will be an urban partnership called Driving Urban Transitions to a Sustainable Future, DUT. And I will come back to that a little bit later because the PET program will be part of that. The PET program itself comes from the Strategic Energy Technology Plan that has been launched in 2008. It is an initiative of developing technologies for sustainable development in Europe. And the so-called, there are several actions, and Set Plan Action 3.2 is on smart cities and communities. And that's basically where the PET program is coming from. There are, of course, a lot of different city networks on a national basis, but also all over across Europe. Just to name a few, the Covenant of Mayors, Energy Cities, Eurocities, ERIN, all platforms and networks where European cities work together also regarding the energy transition and climate action. What is the PET program? The PET program is a transnational intergovernmental research and innovation program and is a joint initiative between Set Plan Action 3.2 and the JPI Urban Europe. The mission is to have at least 100 positive energy districts in Europe by 2025. But it's the whole program is focusing not so much only on a quantitative ambition and mission. It's also about creating, I'd like to say, the city of the 21st century, to create cities and urban neighborhoods that are livable, sustainable, and inclusive, and use the strategy of positive energy districts to bring forward this ambition as part of holistic urban strategies. What are positive energy districts? In the PET program, we tried to create a so-called framework definition that is not so much focusing on the quantification of a specific positive energy district, but on the idea of optimizing the 3 basic and main functions for a positive energy district. That is the energy efficiency function, the energy production function, and the energy flexibility function, with the target of optimizing these 3 functions towards climate neutrality and energy surplus by taking into account some guiding principles such as quality of life, inclusiveness, sustainability, resilience, and security of energy supply. For that, of course, we need to address so-called enablers, the policy level, a fitting governance framework, the active involvement of the problem owners, the cities themselves and other stakeholders, and the citizens, the public, an integration of energy and urban planning, and of course, including ICT and data management. You can download the white paper on that reference framework under the address that is written here. There is a draft definition of positive energy districts. I'm not going through it. You can read it. It's basically it is based on that framework that I've just been mentioning before, and the idea is to keep it as open as possible for different approaches, for different regional and local settings, and to operationalize this definition within a specific framework in a specific neighborhood or European city. What is the focus of the PET program? It is basically the ambition of pooling and upscaling of national research and innovation funding towards positive energy districts implementation. Thank you, Johannes. I'm getting stressed. And we have developed a call agenda with roughly 100 million euros until 2025, but also creating impact beyond research and innovation projects regarding technology relevance, capacity building, and process design, and developing the PET program as one of 3 innovation pillars in this European partnership I've mentioned before. We clustered several topics. I will go through that. I will go skip that, and you can read through it if you're interested. I think it is very important to mention that the program, as any of JPI Urban Europe's activities, focuses very much on including the relevant stakeholders. So developing a research and innovation program that really comes from the needs and requirements of those who need to actually do it, namely, first of all, the cities, but also the real estate industry and utilities. And to create on different levels a PET community on a European and also international level, with a city panel of cities, with a group for mobilization, replication, and with a large, wider community with different urban stakeholders for PET development. We have mapped current state of play in Europe. We've started to do that, and this is a continuous work where we listed and compiled as of now more than 60 projects that are dealing with the energy transition in the urban contexts. A lot of them positive energy districts, but not all of them. But it makes clear that there are a lot of different approaches and a lot of different needs to get towards that ambition. You can also download that on our website. We have developed a call agenda. I've mentioned it before, basically through joint national calls, but also through a European co-fund. And as a last point is the inclusion, as I said, of the positive energy districts in a broader urban partnership, driving urban transitions towards sustainable solutions, so towards sustainable future it should be. And one of these pillars is the positive energy districts and neighborhoods pillar, and we're working on that currently. So that will be framed in a wider perspective, urban perspective.
Christoph, thank you so much for giving us a big picture of the relevance of cutting CO2 emissions and the role of urban areas in that, and also pointing out the European ambitions to do so, and introducing us to the positive energy districts program, and also the concept, which gained quite some traction over the last years in Europe. What is also interesting is what we might touch upon in the discussion a bit later, is that you showed us that making positive energy districts a reality, it needs more than just plug and play solutions, but it needs enablers and governance processes, and which are connected to a lot of challenges and other topics which need to be addressed to make this 100 paths a reality. Thank you so much, Christoph. With that, we go to our first case for today. That is from the city of Vienna. And Stefan Sattler will give us an introduction to the case of Vienna.
So, thank you very much for the short introduction. I am Stefan Sattler of the city of Vienna, and I will talk today about decarbonizing the energy system of Vienna. I work at the Department for Energy Planning for the city of Vienna, and I am responsible for implementing renewable energy in new development areas and also in the existing city. Why are cities so important if we are trying to meet our climate goals? The cities occupy just about 2% of the surface of our planet, but in the same time, more than 50% of the world's population is living in those cities, and they are responsible for more than 75% of our global CO2 emissions. That means that on a very small area of our planet, most of the CO2 emissions are emitted, and therefore trying to reach the climate goals, trying to reach the Paris Agreement, every climate goal is depending on if we are focusing, or therefore we have to focus on our cities if we want to meet those goals. Cities, of course, have very limited space, and the cities are very limited on the renewable energy sources which they have. Mainly there are, at least in Vienna, there are 4 renewable energy sources which can be used directly in the city. The first one is the deep geothermal energy. That means you are drilling holes 3,000 to 6,000 meters into the ground, and you are getting very hot water with about 100 degrees Celsius of temperature, and you can directly use it in your local district heating network. The second one on the upper right side is the geothermal energy, normal drilling pipes up to 300 meters of depth. You can use this energy for heating and cooling your buildings. So normally you don't connect it to a district heating network. On the lower left picture, you see solar energy. Of course, solar is one of the most important energy sources for the city. And the fourth renewable energy source is waste heat. Heat that comes from climate, AC units, from industry, from office buildings. Using that kind of waste heat is very efficient to decrease the amount of energy needed in your complete system. Because cities are limited in their size, they have to work closely together with the regions. They will have to import green electricity and green gases in the future. Currently, at least Vienna is depending on imports of fossil fuel from far away. So this will change, and we will need to work closely together with the surrounding areas from Vienna to import their wind energy, solar energy, or biogas. We in Vienna are currently working on climate protection areas. I'm sorry, but the slide is partly in German, but I think you can understand it. We have released a few months back for the first districts, so for 3 districts, climate protection areas. What does that mean? In those areas, if you are building a new building, you are no longer allowed to use fossil fuels for room heating and for warm water. you have to use renewable energy like solar energy, wind energy, or heat pumps, so energy from heat pumps and groundwater, or geothermal energy, because fossil fuels are prohibited. Of course, you can use our district heating network in those areas, and in the next few years, I think the next 2 years, every district of the city of Vienna will have its own climate protection area, and we are thinking that we cover about 80% of the new development areas with those climate protection areas. So it's a first step, of course. In the future, we also have to focus on existing buildings, how we can integrate them in those areas, and that if somebody is renovating his building, he knows or she knows what kind of renewable energy source is available right on site. Therefore, we have quite a good picture of the city of basically today. We should not say tomorrow, because we have to start right now, and all the technology is available, all the knowledge is available, how we can make a renewable, efficient energy system for our cities. You can see a lot of different energy sources will be used in the future. The buildings will work closely together. The buildings will no longer be just an energy consumer. Buildings will produce energy, they will store the energy, and of course they will use the energy. But they can talk to each other, they can share their renewable energy with each other. They can integrate waste heat, they can integrate wind energy from outside of the city. Yeah, of course, district heating will be a big part of our energy system. We have to decarbonize our district heating network. Yeah. Because solar energy is so important for the cities, we are currently working on our new solar handbook. The first one was released in the year 2014, but a lot has changed in regarding to photovoltaics and solar thermy. Therefore, we have two main focus areas. The first focus area is building integrated photovoltaics, how you can use it inside of the facade as a rooftop, as a shading element. And the second main focus of the solar handbook is how you can combine photovoltaics with greening on the roof, on the facade. So we will release it hopefully in the next few months. As you can see here on the picture, my first slide was a very green picture of Vienna, but if you look very closely, inside of the city there isn't as much green space available than on the outskirts of the city, of course. And we have to decarbonize also this building, which you can see here in the picture. In Austria or in Vienna, more than 400,000 gas boilers are used. So individual gas boilers for apartments are used. And we have to find solutions to decarbonize those buildings. One part of those buildings will be connected to the district heating network. A big part will be, heat pumps will produce heating, cooling, and the warm water. And a little part will be supplied with green gas. Green gas, we have the main focus for it in the industry, in power plants, and just a small percentage will be used in the building stock. I also will give you a small example what we have done in Vienna. One of our showcase projects is the Mühlgrundgasse. It's located in the 22nd district. It's an apartment building. It uses primarily nearly 100%. So it uses 100% of renewable energy. It uses geothermal energy, and it has a contract with a wind power plant. So it can use. It somehow works as a peak shaving for the wind power plant. It uses the excess power to heat up the building. Because the building is building activated, the slabs are activated, it can also store energy very efficient. Before I'm finished, I would like to show you our app, the Energy Ahead app. It contains a lot of showcase projects. It is available in English, so you can just download it and have a look what Vienna has done in the last few years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan, for introducing the case of Vienna to this panel. With that, I would like to go to the next speaker for today. That is Elina Von, who is a development manager at the city of ESPOO in Finland. And Elina, you will present your case to us today.
Thank you.
Yours.
Thank you. And after Christoph and Stefan, it's really pleasure to introduce a case from city of Espoo, Finland, to all of you. So here we go. Greetings from Northern Europe, Finland. My name is Elina Vanne, and yes, I work as a development manager, but going back to Christoph's earlier presentation, I also am project leader, project manager for a lighthouse project where Espoo is lighthouse city. But yes, city of Espoo is the second largest city in Finland, and we have been working towards sustainability and smart city for quite long already. It didn't happen yesterday or last year. It has been done already, I think, more than 30 years. Sustainability has been on our agenda. And smart city is, as a concept, is one part of that, and of course, smart energy as well. We have already now received many acknowledgements, but we still feel that we are not there yet. We want to be even better, and we are working towards becoming better every day. And one way to do it is to do collaboration with other cities and projects, international projects. And also one way to get assessed is to present what we are doing. And this panel is one way that we are presenting and telling about our achievements to others. Yes, second largest city in Finland. So the capital of Helsinki is just very next to the city of Espoo. We are actually the annoying little brother, if you can imagine. So the capital being the big brother and we being the annoying little brother, trying to do things a bit better than the capital is doing. Just a couple of facts about our city. We have less than 300,000 inhabitants, but that is for Finland. We get the position as the second largest city. We have lots of different kind of city area. We have dense city, we have village-like, and then we have even countryside and wilderness in our city. So in that sense, it's very versatile as a city, the city of Espoo. We have been developing our innovation garden where most sustainable and we could have the most sustainable and happiest environment for growth and innovation. And actually, currently, the biggest innovation and technology hub in Northern Europe is located in Espoo, Finland. We are very fortunate because our residents are one of our key stakeholders in the smart city development. And half of them have adult-aged people living in the city, have university degree. They are also eager to try new things, to develop the city to become even better. They are sometimes even a bit demanding, but it's good. That's the way we keep our things rolling forward, when also the residents are taking part to this development work. VTT, Technical Research Center of Finland, is also located here. And for us as a city, VTT is a very important partner, as well as Aalto University. that was formed, combining 3 different universities into one. And then, yes, the startup ecosystem is one important part of our innovation ecosystem. And then also 45% of Helsinki stock exchange value is actually from companies located in Espoo. So from that number, you really get to realize that actually the companies that are developing the new solutions for a smart city and sustainability are already in the city, and they are willing and they want to develop things with the city and in our city. We are working towards creating bigger handprint of the city, not the carbon footprint, but the handprint, really to have more meaningless and more impact in what is developing here in Espoo. But how we do things here in Espoo, it's about doing together. Our Espoo story, it's our strategy, and in that we really state what this is all about. The headline of the Espoo story is that the city wants to be the most sustainable city in Europe now and in the future. There are also other topics there, but as I work in the sustainable development team of the city, I tend to look at the city from that perspective. So the Espoo story, the strategy is of course defining our way very much. And it has been done in collaboration with our partners and also with the residents. The Sustainable Espoo program is about describing the work in more detail. And the 5 round objectives are the themes that are defined in the Sustainable Espoo program. But then we have 3 very, very important goals that we are working towards. And they are that most sustainable city in Europe. But in addition to that, we as a city really are looking forward to coming carbon neutral by year 2030. That's very early because there are only few cities that have set that goal so far. And as a country, Finland has set the goal to become carbon neutral in year 2035. And then another way to assess or measure the development work is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And as a city, we are very much looking forward to achieve the SDGs by year 2025. And yes, the topics, we have the 5 topics for our work, and thinking about my work currently, what I do, it's the local nature is the only of the 5 topics that's not in the middle of my work. That's something that my other colleagues are doing. But actually the Lighthouse project that I work with has all those four topics in it. So it's transport, it's energy, it's sustainable lifestyles, but it's really about smart city development. And yes, what sparks the Lighthouse project that I work for it's about pets. I really enjoyed how Christoph defined the positive energy district, what it could be. But for us in Espoo, it's really a bit different because we are up in the north. Our winters are cold, our summers can be hot, but how are we really able to have sustainable energy available year round? That's not only about having those sustainable energy kind of sources like sun and wind, but it's also about how you can store the energy and how you can use it flexibly. And with the district level, you can think about when you have different kind of consumer profiles, you can get benefit from that too. And then of course the e-mobility, really electric transportation is one part of this positive energy district development. yes, the project started only 1 year ago, so we have still 4 years left, but it's really, I'm already now seeing the great results that we are achieving and going to achieve in this project. In ESPOO, we would really love to have the city seen as a platform for sustainable city development, smart city development. And in this picture, we have been trying to kind of create the bigger picture. What is actually the ecosystem thinking behind this? Of course, there is also always the natural, the biological ecosystems, but then there is the public ecosystem, corporate, emerging, and then the research. And when that all is combined in an orchestrated way, and when we work efficiently in that kind of ecosystem, then we can really achieve new things and create the sustainable future. And yes, sustainable development goals are one way to measure our development. And we have only this summer published our voluntary local review, where we provide information how these sustainable development goals have been in our city organizations' work so far, and how we're going to reach the goals by year 2025. But of course, I'm an engineer of my background, but what I am now seeing is becoming even more important. It's not only the technology and new ideas and innovations that is developed. It's more about how we can create well-being to our citizens, to our residents, and how we can also disseminate the good results and ideas that are developed, for example, here in ESPOO, to other cities. And another point that I'd like to make here is it's really about the city characteristics. All cities are a bit different. For example, in ESPOO, we don't own our own energy utility. It's owned by a private company. It's one difference from other, because some cities own their energy utility, then it's somehow easier to manage that. But we have defined it so that now that we are not owning it, we can really demand more. We can work with different stakeholders, find new partnerships, and in that sense, be more agile when we are developing the energy system. And yes, district heating is one very strong part of the energy system here in Finland. And with the district heating, we are very lucky at the moment, because with the company that is managing the district heating in ESPOO, we have achieved agreement that it will be carbon neutral by year 2025. And from that, we can get to the fact that it's actually then the mobility that is making most of the CO2 emissions in our city.
Elina,
So,
you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. So it's really important that you know what you're doing. First, we had the energy. Now we have already in ESPOO, we have kind of not solved the problem, but we are getting there. Now we are moving to the mobility part of it. But yes, being up in the north, having the special climate here, it is demanding, but that's why we are eager to solve these challenges. And yes, going to the last slide, how we think about things. It's not always about the technology. It's more really about the everyday life of our residents, the well-being, and also it's about global responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elina. That was very inspiring, I think, and very impressive what bold visions the city of ESPOO took up now, maybe already 30 years ago, when you pointed that out, that the topic of sustainability is on the agenda for a long time. And what is really interesting, and you also mentioned that the link to Christoph's presentation, also with the sentence with which you ended the presentation, how can we create well-being for the residents? So that is not only technology implementation is not an end in itself, but it should be a tool, for improving all of our lives in the end and create sustainable cities or urban areas. With that, I would like to go to Brazil, so to say. Lorraine, can you give us a little insight into your work?
For sure. Thank you, James. Thank you for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So first of all, I'm gonna make some considerations about Brazilian energy matrix and our energy transition, because it's a matrix that is quite different from the European case. We have a starting point that is quite different from yours and from the rest of the world in general. So I think it's important for us to have this in mind when talking about the energy transition and smart cities and smart grids in Brazil. So in this first slide, we can see the evolution of the energy matrix from 1974 to 2018. And as you can see, the hydropower has the biggest share in the matrix. It's decreasing in this period, but it's still beyond 50%. So we are strongly renewable. So this red line here represents the thermal generation. So it presented a slight increase in these years, but it's still very low comparing to other countries and to the European case, for example. And in the recent years, you can see here solar and wind generation increasing. Wind is still higher than solar generation. So we come here from a hydro-based matrix. Then we go to a hydrothermal matrix because of the restrictions regarding the large hydro plants constructions, because of the environmental impacts of these huge plants with huge reservoirs. So we go to a hydrothermal matrix. And now we are going to a renewables area because we are increasing the non-conventional renewables. It's a recent process, and we have still some delay in comparison to other countries, to the rest of the world. But because we have this high share of hydro generation, so we are still very renewable based. So here we have the current participation, the current share of each source in Brazilian matrix. We have an installed capacity of approximately 167,000 megawatts, and hydropower with 60%. Nuclear with very little participation. What's another point of a huge difference between Brazil and other countries in here in Europe, with nuclear plants, nuclear generation corresponding to 1% of our matrix. Here we have wind generation that is almost reaching 10%. And solar is still a little bit timid, but it's increasing year by year. Here is a comparison of the renewable share in electricity generation in 2017, Brazil and the OECD countries and the rest of the world. So in 2019, we had 83% of renewables in electricity generation. It was a little bit lower share in comparison to 2018, 0.3% less, but in comparison to the world in 2017, there was a share of renewable generation of 22%, and OECD countries with 26%. So renewables show a decreasing participation in the Brazilian electricity generation, but even so, Brazil stands out in relation to the rest of the world and the developed countries. And here's another graph showing the evolution of electricity generation, the share between renewables and non-renewables. And Brazil comes from 89% in 2000, and we reached 84% in 2018. While the rest of the world comes from 18% in 2000 and reached 25% in 2018. So it's a huge difference. Talking about European Union, you have 14% in 2000 and 32% in 2008. So we still have some advantages here talking about share of renewables. In terms of CO2 emissions related to the electricity sector, we also have an advantage. Here's a comparison between China, US, European Union, and Brazil. And to produce 1 megawatt hour of electricity, Brazilian sector emits 1/3 of European Union emissions, 1/4 of American electricity sector, and 1/6 of Chinese sector. So we need the energy transition is a big issue for us, but we have this advantage talking about the starting point. So the dynamics of the energy transition in Brazil have big differences between the rest of the world, because first of all, we need to maintain the investments in renewables, mainly wind, solar, and small hydropower plants, invest in dispatchable sources to ensure operational security of supply, basically and mainly gas power plants, because we have this. We have to guarantee the security and the flexibility of the system. That is one of the issues of our energy transition. And we also must invest in electric mobility and other sources of energy like hydrogen. So this is a completely different energy transition. This being said, I'm gonna talk a little bit about photovoltaic generation and present some cases. So the evolution of the diffusion of solar capacity in Brazil is quite recent. In 2012, we had only 7 megawatts of installed capacity. It was the year when ANEEL, the electricity sector regulator, launched the regulation to support the net metering system that we have nowadays. And from them to 2020 to September 2020, we had a quite fast growth of this capacity. And in this year, currently we have 60,000 megawatts of solar energy in Brazil, 45% being centralized generation and 55% of distributed generation. In 2017, the share was quite different. Distributed generation was only 17% of the installed capacity. So it's a huge growth in only 3 years. Much of this, we have a discussion, a revision of the support system of the net metering system ongoing. So we observed an explosion, an acceleration in the rhythm of distributed generation growth in these months, because the people already know that the rules are going to change. So people are running to install and to get the current conditions. In terms of state, it's a state ranking, Brazilian state ranking. We have Minas Gerais as one of the biggest installed capacity, with almost 20% of the country installed capacity, followed by Rio Grande do Sul, São Paulo, Paraná. Rio de Janeiro is here in the 80 position, with only 4% of the installed capacity. I presented this data about solar generation because here in Brazil, we don't have a framework like you have developed in PED. We don't have a systematic approach to deal and to support the transition, the urban sustainable development. So we have some particular actions and programs and ONGs and pilot programs being developed and ongoing initiatives, but we don't have this systematic and holistic approach like you have. We don't have, for example, we have something, projects ongoing dealing with distributed generation. We have other projects, pilot projects dealing with e-mobility, others with demand response, but in general, we don't have a public policy, any energy policy that address all the issues that you deal in PED. For example, we don't have something, some policy to deal with energy generation, efficiency, and I don't remember the third goal of the PED, but we don't have any approach like yours, any framework like yours. So I brought here two cases in which the photovoltaic distributed generation is being developed, okay? And I also want to point out that we are in early stage of development of smart grids and smart cities in general. We don't have any policy, any mandatory rollout of intelligent measurement, communication in the grid, and so on. So we are still late in all this discussion, and we have to go fast and have some decisions in the next years. But I brought here two cases. The first case is we have many slums here in Brazil. For example, 25% of the population of Rio de Janeiro live in slums. So the ONG Renewables Solar, they support the sustainable development of the slums through the solar energy. So the goal is to increase the increase of efficiency and quality of electricity supply and energy democratization. The slums in Rio de Janeiro, they have quite a poor electricity supply quality, and we also have a huge problem of non-technical losses in the slums, like electricity theft. So it's a great source of inefficiency because many people don't pay for the electricity consumption, so the waste is also very high in these cases. So this ONG fostered the energy democratization through energy generation, professional training. They train professionals to install and maintain PV systems, child education actions, events and researches. They produce data about energy consumption in the slums, for example. With this actuation, they address 5 of the sustainable goals, of the sustainable development goals: 4, quality education; 7, renewable energy for the solar generation; jobs and economic growth; 11, sustainable cities and community and climate action. So if you see here, they are more making a comparison with PED. We are more focused on energy generation and on energy efficiency, as we can compensate, reduce non-technical losses through solar generation in the communities. Currently, Renewables Solar have installed in Babilônia, a slum in Rio de Janeiro, 12 kilowatt peak of photovoltaic generation. And they also launched a program, an action based on a crowdfunding system to install. They're going to install the first solar energy cooperative in the slum in Brazil. So they are developing a great job. The second case is the MRV investments in photovoltaic distributed generation. The MRV is a construction company, and they developed the Usinas Photovoltaicas, the photovoltaic plants program. In 2019, 70% of all the company's projects were launched with photovoltaic systems, including social projects. MRV launches some kind of more cheap, not inexpensive, I would say, apartments and condominiums. And even in this projects with social focus, they have also installed these photovoltaic systems. They already have more than 2,400 housing units delivered with a renewable energy system across the whole country. And the system can supply up to 80% of the energy consumed in the common areas and in some apartments, depending on the profile, on the consumption profile of each apartment. And the project aims to provide that until 2022, all the projects launched by MRV have photovoltaic panels. And they estimate that they have generated a total of 1788 megawatt hour a year in 2019. And they intend to increase this volume 17 times until 2025, when they expect to reach around 31,000 megawatt hour per year. In this sense, this case is mainly focused on the 11 SDG regarding sustainable cities and communities. And these are the cases I brought here to the presentation. And one more time, we don't have any projects with, yes, we have some pilot projects delivered from R&D programs that they develop smart cities and so on, but here brought these two related to photovoltaic solar generation. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lorraine, for giving us an insight into the Brazilian case, and very, very, very good to see the comparison between how energy is produced in Brazil, how much CO2 is emitted with this production compared to Europe and China. That was very interesting, and it really showed that also the cases were very interesting, where you talked about the energy cooperation or cooperatives in the favelas, and how it facilitates a kind of energy democracy, which is very interesting with renewable energy. With that, we enter now the last part of this session, of this panel, and that is a little bit of a discussion among us. And I have a couple of questions to you. And Lorraine, I would actually like to start with you because you presented last, so you're the first with the questions. I wanted to know from you, when you hear, I mean, the local context and the national context, and basically a lot of context is different between Europe and Brazil. We heard that also today in the different presentations. However, I see that there are, although the contexts are different, that there are some overlaps in ambitions and basically in what can be learned. I think there's a great potential there, and I would like to know from you, where do you see these points where from the other presenters, from your presentation, where there's interlinkages between the themes and topics taking up, and where do you see that an exchange between EU and Brazil would be beneficial?
I think we have a lot to cooperate, and Brazil has a lot to learn and with you, because we have made some research about the Green Deal and the Horizon Europe, and more recently about the PED, as we heard the first time in this event. But I think it's really important for us to have a framework and to develop and design a public policy, and involving like many sectors. As Elena said, it's not about technology. We need to think about public policy, sustainable development, education, health, because mainly in Brazil, we have a lot of social problems and social issues. So I think we have to use these frameworks and this time, this post-COVID crisis, to think about these problems and these issues with a more, I think a bigger and more comprehensive framework. We cannot address specific problems anymore. We have to think about urban sustainable development, because yes, we have some results regarding photovoltaic generation. We are advancing, but we need more. We need to do more and think this problem in a more complex way, because it's a complex problem. So I think we need to to put everybody together, economists, engineers, and we need a holistic approach like you have developed it. I think it's a complex problem, a complex issue, and it requires a complex thinking approach and so on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Up next, I would like to ask you, Elena. I would like to ask you, what do you see as you're part of a lighthouse project where there's several cities and urban public administration, but also business and research involved. I would like to know from you, where do you see the advantage of this cooperation? What can be learned from that? And do you think that this is a model or some process which could also be used, for example, for EU-Brazil cooperation?
I think that is an idea that we really need to focus on and think about, because from my experience, the collaboration with other cities, it's valuable, it's fruitful, and it's always good to have kind of city friend to talk with and compare things with. Because as I told you earlier, we as a city work a lot with our partners, and now I'm talking about companies and associations and universities and research centers, those kind of partners. But they are not really fully always aware what is it like to be a city, what it's like to develop a city. And really, it's important to have this kind of peer support and discussion going on, and it's also about how you can compare and evaluate and assess the progress that you have made. It's with other cities. That is not something that you can deal with other partners. It's really many-sided advantages in that collaboration, and we as a city value other cities and their experiences a lot.
Thank you. Christoph, I have one question for you, which was also partly inspired by Lorraine's presentation, because she talked about education and training, as well as probably a little bit, I heard some capacity building in there. And I was wondering what is needed from your perspective, from the PED program. What else is needed besides technological innovation to, what kind of program like the PED program provide in that sense to make PEDs a reality besides the technology?
I think it is one of the key points of the whole program, not only, of course, technology is important, but as they say, the technology is basically there. But it is a lot about process design. How do you get there? And I appreciate from both, from Lorane and Elina. There was both very interesting aspects. Elina highlighted the need for this peer-to-peer collaboration, working together between cities, and that's what we heard from cities a lot. So we can be, as a program, we can be really successful, I think, if we provide the space, or if we support or can be part of providing the space and the resources for cities to get in direct interconnection on specific topics, because this is where cities learn the most from the experiences of other cities. And the whole idea of mainstreaming the positive energy district topic, or mainstreaming and replicate it, is very closely connected to how to learning from how other cities are doing that. And for the program itself, it is quite key to not only develop a call agenda, where that's what funding agencies are doing, but also do additional measures to exactly get there. Provide trainings, provide capacity building measures within city administrations, but also among other stakeholders that are involved in the process. Also regarding citizen participation, setting up processes, setting up governance structures. Because when we talk about positive energy districts, the whole issue of governance structure is crucial, because it deviates so much from the traditional, from some traditional models of governance models. And that's where I can come back to Lorraine. I find it very interesting what you're doing, what projects you're doing in slums, because it is a very fascinating. We don't have proper slums in Europe, I would say, but still we have. It is one of the crucial points. How do we get the public involved? How do we get the residents involved? And even more so if they don't have the social capital if they don't have a university degree, like 50% in ESPOO do. How do we get them on board? How do we create the awareness, and how do we make them part of the process? I don't have the answer to that, and I think this is. But what we learned from cities and what we discussed in several platforms, this is one of the key aspects, because otherwise, if we just focus on technology solutions, we will fail. It's the process that matters.
Thank you so much, Christoph. We have a couple of minutes left, and I would like to open the floor to all participants here. If you have some more comments or questions to your peers, now would be a good time. If not, we are finishing a bit early. That's also fine. But if you have a question to the other panelists, yeah, Christoph.
It's more of a comment. I think it would be great to explore the collaboration between Brazil and Europe in different fields, because obviously some challenges are similar, but the cultural or societal background is obviously differs from Europe. But this is exactly where we can learn, I think, and you have other problems. You were talking, Lorraine was talking about that there is not that there's some kind of need for holistic strategies also in Brazil. And I think to exchange on these, or to identify these topics that we can learn from, and I really think that it goes in both directions. That would be very exciting for a future process, because in the end it's a global challenge and not a Latin American or European or Asian challenge. So to do that to focus on things that we can really work together or learn from each other will be very fascinating. I'm hoping that we can do that.
So regarding how Europe and Brazil can work together on plus energy districts in the future, I think sharing the knowledge, the existing knowledge, is quite important, because we learn a lot on how processes in cities on the countryside are functioning, what can be improved. It's important to learn from showcase areas, from showcase projects, and to implement those learnings in your own city. I think that will be at least the first step in working together, Europe and Brazil.
I think it's gonna be great, Christoph. Yes, we have quite different systems and starting points, and maybe, but I think the goal is the same for everybody. So we have to promote to foster the sustainable development, and together the stakeholders and everybody that to discuss and to develop this framework and to support this process. So I think we have a lot to collaborate and to learn with each other. And yes, we can work in this, identify the points, promote the discussions, and maybe develop this framework. I think every framework, we don't have a one-size-fits-all solution. I think it's not possible, but I think we can collaborate and provide a lot of insights to this development and to this process.
Yeah. And I mean, not only on kind of program level, but also supporting the exchange between the cities. What Elina said, and I think that would be very fascinating to have ESPOO and Rio de Janeiro exchanging their ideas on the energy transition.
Or parts of Rio, maybe.
Parts of Rio, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Great. Thank you all so much. Thank you for everybody involved in setting up this webinar. Thank you to all the speakers. I learned a lot throughout the last 1 hour, 1.5 hours. It was very interesting. Yeah, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
And goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.